2022 was a year of big disappointments.
I'm shocked that the Patriots look this dysfunctional on offense.
It feels like there were more big-time disappointments in 2022 compared to more recent years. So here are the 10 biggest disappointments of the 2022 NFL season. Green Bay Packers. You say what you want about the Davante Adams trade, but one wide receiver simply shouldn't take you from 3 consecutive 13-win seasons to an 8-win season and no playoff berth. But that is exactly what happened with the Packers. We all knew that the offense would lose a beat with Adams gone, but they still had 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and Allen Lazard and promising rookie Christian Watson and of course an elite defense that added Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt in the draft. You just always trust a team like Green Bay to figure it out, especially with a future Hall of Famer at quarterback. After a promising 3-1 start, the Packers imploded with 5 straight losses. They entered December with a 4-8 record and appeared to be completely done for. Green Bay then rallied for 4 straight wins to enter Week 18 at 8-8. A late-season collapse by the Washington Commanders set up a must-win game for the Packers in Week 18 against the Detroit Lions. Win at Lambeau Field against your longtime rivals, and you're in! But the Packers imploded yet again. Costly penalties and turnovers led to Green Bay's undoing. The Lions stunned with a 20-16 win to send the Pack home, allowing the Seattle Seahawks to sneak in as the NFC's final wildcard team. From 3 straight 13-win seasons, 2 NFC title game appearances, 2 MVP campaigns from Rodgers to an 8-9 record and no playoffs? Well, congrats, Packers. You are the NFL's biggest disappointment of 2022. Los Angeles Rams. The Rams won Super Bowl 56 behind the 4-star nucleus of Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, and Matthew Stafford. Yes, the cap-strapped Rams lost several key pieces in the offseason and lacked a first-rounder because of a trade for Stafford. But the Rams' top players remained at the top of their games, and GM Les Snead made 2 big splashes in free agency and future Hall of Famer and linebacker Bobby Wagner and standout receiver Allen Robinson. Repeating as champs is next to impossible these days, but the Rams clearly had the pieces in place to win double-digit games and get back to the postseason. Or at least we all thought. The Rams got above 500 with a Week 3 road win against the Arizona Cardinals, and, well, that was it. They were 500 or below the rest of the way. After moving to 3-3 with a Week 6 win over the Carolina Panthers, LA dropped its next 6 games. But Stafford missed 8 games, including the last 7 because of a spinal cord contusion. An ankle injury kept Donald out for the final 6 games. Kupp missed the last 8 contests with an ankle injury. Nothing came together for Sean McVay's Rams in 2022. They finished 5-12, the worst record ever for a defending Super Bowl champion. It is beyond comprehension how they went from Super Bowl champs to big-time dud. Russell Wilson. Wilson sought a trade following the first losing season of his career with the Seattle Seahawks in 2021. The QB-needy Denver Broncos paid a king's ransom for the 9-time Pro Bowler, acquiring Wilson plus a 2022 4th-rounder for 2022 and 2023 first and second-round picks, as well as a 2022 5th-rounder, backup QB Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, and pass rusher Shelby Harris. Denver then signed Wilson to a massive 5-year contract extension worth $245 million, seemingly putting an end to their half-decade-long search for a franchise quarterback. Or not. Wilson and the Denver offense simply never got in sync. He lost 11 of his 15 starts and completed 60.5% of his pass attempts for just 3,524 yards and 16 touchdowns against 11 picks for a quarterback rating of 84.4, the lowest mark of his entire career. Denver finished dead last in scoring offense, averaging a woeful 16.9 points per game. Head coach Nathaniel Hackett was fired with 2 games to go. Wilson was supposed to be the final piece needed for the Broncos to return to Super Bowl contention. Their defense was very good, and Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton tuned in strong seasons at wideout. But Wilson was just awful in year 1 with the Broncos. And to think Seattle gets the number 5 selection via Denver after qualifying for the postseason. Wilson and the Broncos country did not ride together in 2022. At this point, they can only hope that 2023 will be a little bit different. New England Patriots offense. Some Pats fans may wish to see Bill Belichick or the entire New England team on here, but the defense, Belichick's specialty, held up its end of the bargain by recording 30 takeaways, tied for second most, and 54 sacks, which was tied for third most. It was simply the Patriots' offense that kept New England out of the postseason for the second time in 3 years. The Patriots finished 26th in yards for and 17th in points for. A year ago, they were 6th in points for. Belichick baffled everybody when he made Pat Patricia and Joe Judge the de facto co-offensive coordinators, even though their backgrounds were on defense and special teams respectively. Belichick started an unnecessary QB controversy in Week 7 against the Chicago Bears by playing musical chairs with Jones and backup Bailey Zappi. New England's O-line went from elite in pass protection to downright awful. Jacoby Myers led the team with 804 receiving yards. Devontae Parker was second with a measly 539, and he missed 4 games. A team coached by Belichick shouldn't struggle this much offensively. Jones had an awesome rookie year and should have stepped up in year 2, but it turns out the Patriots and Josh McDaniels really missed one another. New England finished 8-9 1 year after going 10-7 in what was essentially a retooling year. Ah well, so much for kickstarting the next championship window in Foxborough. Josh McDaniels. You can point the finger just about anywhere in Las Vegas, but it starts with the first-year head coach. McDaniels inherited a Vegas team that went 10-7 a year ago under interim head coach Rich Bisaccia, who led the team to its first playoff appearance in 5 years. Vegas hoped that an accomplished and well-respected OC like McDaniels would take this unit to another level, so they went all in by trading for Green Bay Packers star Davante Adams and by signing star pass rusher Chandler Jones. The final result? A 6-11 record. Get this, Vegas lost 5 games in which they held a double-digit lead in the second half, making them the first team to achieve that feat. 9 of their losses were decided by 1 score. That stat alone falls on the coach. Adams had another superstar season, and Josh Jacobs turned in the best season of his career, and yet the Raiders regressed by 4 wins. And the marriage with Derek Carr ended when he was benched for the final 2 games of the season, even though the Raiders had just extended him in the offseason. Look, hindsight is 20/20, but McDaniels should have stayed in New England, and the Raiders should have kept Bisaccia on as the head coach. Zach Wilson. The number 2 pick of the 2021 NFL Draft wasn't exactly expected to be a rock star in year 2. But to be quite literally the worst starting QB we've seen in years? Well, that's really something else. Wilson had a rough rookie year, but showed some promise. The New York Jets made it a priority to build around Wilson, drafting Ohio State wideout Garrett Wilson and Iowa State RB Breece Hall. They also signed former Cincinnati Bengals tight end CJ Uzomah and Pro Bowl guard Laken Tomlinson in free agency. Wilson was atrocious in his 9 starts for the Jets, however. He completed 54.5% of his pass attempts for 6 touchdowns against even picks for a quarterback rating of 72.8. He had 5 games where he threw under 160 yards and 2 games of under 100 passing yards. He was outplayed by backup Mike White and third stringer Joe Flacco all year long. Wilson's awful performance wasted a great year from the Jets defense and the young studs on offense, and it cost the team its first playoff berth in 12 years. So now the Jets have to decide if they want to ditch the number 2 pick of 2021 or give him one more chance. Not ideal considering he was supposed to be the franchise-changing QB less than 2 years ago. Tennessee Titans in the second half. After an 0-2 start, the Titans rallied for 5 straight victories. A statement road win over the Green Bay Packers in Week 11 had the Titans at 7-3 with 7 games to go, and the AFC South division was essentially all locked up. Or, so we all thought. Tennessee ended the season on an ugly 7-game losing streak. Losing starting QB Ryan Tannehill for the final 3 games with an ankle injury didn't help matters, of course, but what about the 4 straight games they lost before he went down with injury? Tennessee had the AFC South in their hands against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 18 until Josh Dobbs was strip-sacked late in the game and the Jaguars returned it for the game-winning touchdown en route to sealing the division. 8 straight losses after a 7-3 start for a team coming off 3 straight playoff appearances. An inexcusable and dismal collapse by Tennessee considering the state of their division throughout most of this year. Concussion spotters. The NFL concussion issue reared its ugly head again throughout the 2022 season. It started in Week 3 when Miami Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa slammed his head into the ground during a home game against the Buffalo Bills. He briefly got back up, looking all wobbly, before falling back down to the ground. And surprisingly, he received clearance to come back and finish the game. 4 days later, Tagovailoa suffered a concussion on Thursday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals and had to be taken away in a stretcher. The NFLPA later fired the neurotrauma consultant, and the league and PA agreed to change up the NFL's concussion protocols. Tagovailoa suffered yet another concussion in Week 16 against the Green Bay Packers, once again raising concerns about concussion issues. With all the knowledge we have on concussions and with today's technology, this should not remain an issue. The entire NFC South. Anytime a division winner finishes with a losing record, well, I mean, the joke kind of writes itself. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the putrid NFC South with an 8-9 record, but they were one of the top Super Bowl favorites entering this season, and they weren't supposed to struggle the way that they did. If it weren't for a few miraculous Tom Brady comebacks, the Bucs would have had a top 5 pick instead of a division crown. But let me tell you, it's not just Tampa Bay. The New Orleans Saints were supposed to be a playoff contender with the return of Jameis Winston and Michael Thomas, plus the arrivals of Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave, and Tyrann Mathieu. They finished 7-10 and missed the postseason altogether. The Atlanta Falcons were in the running for the NFC South crown, sitting at 4-4 through 8 weeks. Then they dropped 6 of their final 9 games. The Carolina Panthers enjoyed a brief resurgence under Steve Wilkes, and they even had the Bucs on the ropes in their Week 17 game before giving up 20 points in the fourth quarter to miss out on the division title. Hey, look, you know, someone had to win the division, so congrats to the Bucs on doing so. But boy, don't circle too many 2023 NFL games involving NFC South clubs on your schedule for next year. This is going to be football's worst division yet again. Indianapolis Colts. The Colts gave up on Carson Wentz after just 1 season and dealt him to the Washington Commanders. Their replacement? A former MVP in Matt Ryan, whom the Colts received from the Atlanta Falcons for the low price of a 3rd-round draft pick. Ryan was supposed to be an upgrade over Wentz. Throw on a top 5 O-line, reigning rushing champ Jonathan Taylor, and a stingy defense, and the Colts had all the makings to A, win the weak AFC South, and B, go on a deep playoff run. Well, that once-feared O-line became one of the worst in recent memory. Taylor missed 6 games, the vaunted defense allowed the 5th most points. Oh, and Matty Ice went Matty Ice cold. He had 14 touchdowns against 13 interceptions, and he fumbled a career-high 15 times despite playing just 12 of the 17 games. Indy played a game of musical chairs at QB between Ryan, Nick Foles, and Sam Ehlinger. The results were the same. Frank Reich was fired after 9 games, and Jim Irsay embarrassed the league when he hired ESPN analyst and former Colts center Jeff Saturday as the interim head coach. You know, even though he had 0 NFL coaching experience. Indy finished with a record of 4-12-1. So much for the QB upgrade, and so much for getting back into the postseason. But what other major disappointments from the 2022 NFL season should we have included on our list? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.